Okay, so I have this Eclipse SWT based application, and what I'm going to do is I have a catalog of products and categories here, and what I want to be able to do is to translate the different categories and products within here. So for instance, this is the English version. If I go over to the Spanish version, you can see that it's still English because there is no translation to Spanish. Well, when I switch to Spanish, I can now hit the translate button, and you'll see that it goes through and actually translates all of the different texts into Spanish. And if I switch to French, I could do the same thing. It goes ahead and translates all of the items to French, and then of course Portuguese. So now that I have the stuff translated, let's look at how I actually hook this service up. So what I did was I ended up building a Node-RED application out on BlueMix, and this is the current flow. And I'm more than willing to take feedback because I couldn't get some things to work, but let me just go ahead and describe this. So we start off with an HTTP post request for translate, and the way I send the messages in is I have the to language and the text fields as JSON going up to the service. To actually send it into the translation service, the payload needs to be the text, and then the language is in the message.lang. So I just restructure the message and then forward that on in my function. And then here, what I do is I have a switch statement that basically says if the language is to French, go to pipe 1, which is here. If it's in Spanish, go to pipe 2. If it's in Portuguese, 3, and then Arabic, 4. Now, the interesting thing about this service is you can see that you can overload the payload. See, you can set the translation language code in message.lang. If another language is set in the node, then message.lang will be overwritten. So I could not get this to work. I even tried this format here, and I couldn't get it to just generically take in texts. I tell it the to and from languages and then have it translate. So I had to come up with this switch statement here and call the individual translation node like this. So each one of these is set up the same way. I'm using the conversational domain, English to French. It would be nice if I could just use one of these, structure it out here, and then just pass into one, and then of course the HTTP response, and then of course I also put stuff to the debugger. So that's pretty much how it works. And if I go back to my application, what happens is I send each one of these strings up individually, and that's why you saw it kind of filling in from a background thread. So I don't know how many calls that was, maybe a couple hundred calls, but it's actually, you know, not a bad way to get really cheap translation just for aesthetics purposes. So in my mind, this was a very easy solution. I got this up and running on BlueMix very quickly, and you can now integrate you know, translation services into your applications fairly quickly and seamlessly with BlueMix and the Watson translation. So this is once again, it's Watson translation code, and you can actually learn more about that by clicking on the node and clicking the documentation, which I have here, and you can see and learn all about it. So this was, once again, I did it out on BlueMix. It's the language translation service, and you can see the cost here is about $3 per 1,000 characters. So it could get relatively expensive, but the reality is, you know, you only have to do this once, and then you go in and then you brush it up. So very cool feature. Interested in hearing your feedback on how I used it, and specifically if you've got a better way to do this area in here, I welcome your feedback, and thank you for watching.